everyone. Oftentimes, backyard designs feature one large tree at the back of the backyard and nothing nearby the house. Well, this sometimes works for for small yards like this. This yard is only 50 feet wide by 100 feet long. I feel like on larger yards, you want to actually have a tree sort of at the midway point so that it shades the backyard and breaks it into two sections. Of course, if there's a view, people often don't want to put a large tree at the very back if the yard slopes downhill. But if it's flat, then this is a really great way to add canopy to the landscape. And since I am older and I don't play sports back here, what we thought we would do is make it into a nature conservation project, because I felt like this yard was lacking a lot of the perennial wildflowers that are so helpful, beneficial to insects and biodiversity. And so we could sort of put them in the backyard and not have to like worry about front yard landscaping. This backyard also, people, what they do is they have, so the original landscaping featured a whole lot of plants along the fence, but it didn't really have a focal point. And this is a great backyard place setting, but aesthetically, I think as people get older, even more visual diversity, more points of interest are sort of enhancing the ambiance of the backyard. So like more elevation and more depth of field. And so what I thought was missing would be a center point, sort of a backyard nexus. And so here we have an axis planting with one papa, Asimina triloba, host for the zebra swallowtail, surrounded by 7 other perennial wildflowers. So the trick here is going to be not accidentally mowing the flowers in the spring or hurting them with a leaf cleanup in the fall. But another way would just be to turf it out and to do mulch. But this backyard, it's so shady back here that it rarely needs to be mowed ever. So it's maybe not going to be a problem. So first we have 3 Canadian wild columbine, Achelia canadensis. Great plant for the ruby-throated hummingbirds and other native plants. The idea is like early flowering stuff that can sort of survive the shade, or highly shade tolerant species. Of course, in nature, in this sort of setting, wood edge setting, there would be a lot of spring ephemerals like ramps or trout lily. But I thought going for more of the larger vegetative herbaceous perennials was maybe better. I'm just not that confident in buying spring ephemerals yet. And I thought that since the area was so large and there's already a lot of ground cover, it would be hard to do it in sort of a controlled aesthetic way, or you could just embrace the chaos. But I think for anyone who has a standalone tree and nothing underneath it, then spring ephemerals could make a lot of sense. Next we have a plant here, and I'm missing the tag. I'm not sure what this is. It might be the Angelica. We have another Achelia. So this one is Mitterwort fairy cub. So Mitterwort fairy cub, I guess, is a really shade tolerant plant. It puts up these inflorescence in the spring. White inflorescence, probably bug pollinated. So yeah, this must be the Angelica. Connecticut has a lot of endangered Angelica species, and so I thought I would get one this one isn't special concern, but Earth Tones sells a special concern plant. They can't sell endangered or threatened plants because of state law. I'm not really sure the actual reasoning. Maybe because the state doesn't want people taking wild plants out of the wild or collecting seed from wild plants, but I thought that would be a really good strategy to distribute the species more and to make it more abundant. But these look good. I think like they're pretty plants and they'll do their spring thing. and they're very subtle. All these like natives in the spring, they're not showy. Like they're inconspicuous a lot of the time, but I think that's okay. We're trying to not fight nature. An awesome Symphyotrychum cordifolium, the bluewood aster, and Eurobia divaricata, the whitewood aster. These two were missing from this yard, and they're just down the street. And so why I wanted them to be here also. So initially, this house was built in 1910, and so I'm assuming the landscaping, a lot of it went in. It's probably been redone a couple times, but we'll start at this corner over here. We have a dreaded burning bush Euonymus alatus, whatever it's called, winged euonymus. Then we have two volunteer Picea abies, the white spruce, the Norway spruce. They're very small. They just sort of can persist here in the shade, but they don't grow very much ever. We have Pinus strobus. Probably this tree was probably an original planting, or it could be a volunteer. We have Acer platanoides, the Norway maple. This is a giant specimen. I guess it was planted. This one was intentionally planted probably in 1910. It could have been planted in 1910. There were also other ones, according to the neighbors in the other yards, many of which have been removed. So if this was farmland, then it was sort of developed into a streetscape. Then they would have put in these ornamental, high, dense shade maple trees, because I don't know, we're humans and we can't appreciate what the natural ones are. So we have to make it in our own image without any conscious thought to like biological ecosystems or the biological reality, maybe. So here's a Lithero thing. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's native. It's a good ground cover, super shade tolerant. We have these purple euchera. These apparently they're native. I don't really believe it at all. We got this other one, I don't know. We got Pachysandra. We have these Japanese Japonicum that were planted more recently. They seem to have some sort of problem. I'm not too sure. There's a volunteer dogwood, Cornus sericea, host to the spring azure and summer azure butterflies. It's really pretty. It's grown on its own. Great it's not compound leaves. They're very dangly, or I don't know. It's gotten some height to it recently, but totally volunteer. It's the older stalks are more brown, and then the newer ones are red. I think people tend to cut them. If you trim them, they stay red because the red is like more in the younger growth. I wonder how old it is. I think that one's a volunteer. It's native. Here's a rhododendron maximum. This one and some of the other ones really suffered, were knocked back from winter burn or evergreen desiccation. And what that is when there's a very dry fall and a dry winter, these evergreens transpire more water than they're taking in from the soil. And so it results in a lot of dieback. And so what I mean by dry, so it would be like dry soil, drought condition, but then also if the soil freezes, if the temperature drops, the root tips can die if they're not wet, and so that can further stymie transpiration and water flow. And then the other factor is if there's high winter winds, then that increases transpiration. So wind is one of the things that makes transpiration increase. And the other thing is if it's a hot day, then there'll be more transpiration when it's warm out, when it's hot out, so that the plants will lose even more water. And so that's why sometimes in the spring, especially last year, there were a lot of evergreens that had died or were looking very badly. And then the summer drought, we got a lot of spring rain, but then the summer drought and the heat, a lot of heat, sort of even exacerbated the problem further. Here is a dead boxwood. I don't think it's native. It made a lot of babies that were planted around, but they suffer from some sort of mildew disease, and so they all eventually die. Here's a Viburnum nudus, host to the green marvel. This one is super shade tolerant, so we thought I would put it here because we need to replace the boxwood, and a lot of the rhododendron are very big to buy and expensive, and so why not give this viburnum a try, because it's a host to like 100 species of insects, of caterpillars, a larval host. So we could introduce a viburnum back here and see if we can make this place even more amenable to birds nesting, bird nests. We have a lot of baby oaks, volunteer oaks. We have these hostas. I think these Solomon seals are not native. Next up is a cherry tree, Prunus. This one's a little wacky. It's definitely a cherry, but I don't know if it's native or not. I can't actually, I'm having a hard time IDing it. But yeah, probably original, maybe. I feel like a lot of these plants back here have died and resprouted many times, and it's growing fully through the fence. If this fence is original, then this tree is too. I mean, it's like actually growing on both sides of the fence. There, it's eating the fence, but it loses limbs and boughs, and yeah, just keeps on doing its thing, not touching it. It can live out its full lifespan. Here's the serviceberry. This one's really cool, and you can see it's also sort of reached the end of its lifespan multiple times, and has stumps sprouted and great woodpecker damage on there. There's a lot of woodpeckers, like downy woodpeckers, hairy woodpeckers that come through this yard. There's pileated woodpeckers and red-bellied woodpeckers in the park, and that was probably a main leader there that fell off. And then the snags are more valuable to wildlife because of all you get the insects that like dead wood, the borer insects, and then the birds can eat the borer insects, and it becomes more useful. They become habitat, better habitat. Like that's a hollow in there, and so an animal, a bird that can't make its own nests could live in there. So woodpeckers, they can make their own holes in trees, but other stuff like blue jays and chickadees, they can't. Like black-capped chickadees can't make their own nests, so they have to find old woodpecker nests, and oftentimes the blue jays kick them out. So there we go, serviceberry amlauncher, host of the Viceroy and red-spotted purple. Red-spotted purple have been spotted in New Haven, summer 2025. Viceroy butterflies I don't believe they are found in Connecticut. They're more of a western species, but if the serviceberry's out west, it could host that butterfly. We have another Pinostrobus imperial moth. Maybe original. We have Tsuga canadensis. Hemlock, eastern hemlock. We're gonna keep this oak volunteer. It's got nibbled on a little bit by animals, maybe deer. I don't know if there's too much deer back here. If there is deer, then the papa has to be caged, but I'm not too worried. There's also some woodchucks that were relocated, expatriated even. We have Campsis radicans, the trumpet vine, trumpet creeper, and it has a specialist moth, the trumpet vine moth, and the trumpet vine moth eats the bean pods. So it just lost its last flowers, but here are these bean pods, and the moths and caterpillars probably gregarious feeding on the beans. So you have a lot of mouths, and it makes the chewing easier, and so they can get through the tough bean pods, and that's what they're a specialist on. They're on the bean pods. Not the leaves, but maybe the leaves too, maybe the stems. That coevolution. I'm looking for an invasive species that I saw back here. That's part of the milkweed family that the monarchs lay their eggs on, and then the caterpillars can't eat it It's called black swallowwort. Is this it? Yep, this looks like it. This is black swallowwort. This is an invasive. Is this it? There's some in the front yard. I don't know if this is it. Anyway, what they do is the it's an invasive vine that's really bad. It's actually not really bad, but it's bad for the monarchs, and they mistake it for milkweed, and then they land on it, and then they eat it, but they can't eat it because they need Asclepius, because this is actually a different genus. It's just part of the family, so the adult butterflies recognize it, but the larvae are still incompatible, and so it's sort of a sink plant. You end up losing biodiversity because biodiversity can be measured in the genetic variability of a population, its age, its gender, and of course the phylogeny of it, the phylogenetic tree. But this plant hurts the monarchs, and it's invasive, so it has to be removed. It sort of acts like the invasive honeysuckle. We have these Rosa Sharon. Definitely an invasive plant. It has come in on its own, and so I just tend to pull them. I think we're leaving this one, but if it suckers or starts to spread, we'll just pull it. Some more Virginia creeper that's around host to the Abbott Sphinx and the Pandora Sphinx and other Sphinx moths. I hope it's not getting blurry with all the water. Let's see. I can't tell because the phone screen is wet also. So this is a Sequoia Dendron giganteum. It's a giant sequoia redwood, giant redwood. I thought that the best way to sequester carbon was to plant these giant sequoias because they can get massive. Even in Connecticut, like 100-year-old sequoia is still it's way taller than any oak tree. It's way taller than any native tree. Like the tallest native is a tulip magnolia, and they get way taller and they can get way larger. But it's not actually the way to sequester carbon. The way to put carbon, to lock up carbon, is through biodiversity and planting a forest instead of planting a monoculture tree crop. So a lot of mistakes have been made with that, where you just plant non-native conifers, but they don't actually have. They're just sort of a dead forest. They don't support life, like biota, like they're not contributing to life on Earth. So what you actually want to do is plant a keystone species like an oak that is going to have way more ecosystem services than a non-native conifer. They're really cool though. That was a $10 plug, really tiny. It's been about 3 years, three growing seasons, but it's getting like this is like the perfect temperature and water volume for it. It's probably more water than even in the wild, but they're doing really well introduced places because the ones in California, they need these special microhabitats, like just east of the Sierra Nevada mountains, but it's getting too hot and too dry there, and the forest fires are really killing a lot of them, and so they're sort of in decline in their native range, their native habitat, and so it's a species worth keeping. I don't know if there's any specialists on this. Since it's so old, there's got to be some insects that specialize. I think the main value of these trees is that other trees and more productive plants can grow epiphytically in them. Like they get so large that there can be like hundreds of organisms growing at the base or on the trunk or like in the canopy. And so that's really where the value is. The tree itself is probably not the most productive, but it's just like in its native range is probably a keystone species, just because of the size of them. Here, it's probably not useful. So what you want to do is you want to plant something native like an oak, or, just plant an oak, really. So, yeah. 3 extant species of redwood, sequoia, giant sequoia, not to be confused with coastal redwood, Sequoia sempervirens, and not to be confused with the Dawn redwood. Dawn redwood is the rediscovered in 1941 in Sichuan province, and widely planted afterwards as an ornamental, even as a street tree. And they're cool. They're deciduous. This one's evergreen. This tree. And the Dawn redwood, yeah, only secondary growth. Same with the coastal redwood. There's only secondary growth trees because all the old growth were cut down. There's still old growth sequoia though. I'm not sure what else to say about it. It's some cool needles. It doesn't get quite enough sunlight here. I think that's really the problem with it. It like eventually it'll poke through the canopy, but it's still pretty shady here, so it can sort of persist and get bigger marginally. It has a little die-off on the bottom. I don't think this one sheds. Like a lot of, if you look at the pine trees, our native evergreen and even the hemlock, they shed their interiors each fall, and so they're going to lose needles in the fall and in the spring, but they usually just lose the ones on the insides closest to the trunk. So here's a branch. So the very tips aren't losing any needles, it's just the ones further in. And if you look at sort of where there are more lateral branches there, they are losing the needles the further into the tree it goes. So not at the branch tips, it's just losing the interior canopy. There were other metasequoia. There are 4 other species, all of which, or some of which, could be found in North America. So out west, there's petrified wood, petrified forests, and a lot of those were metasequoia. And a lot of these trees also have been sort of plateaued evolutionarily. They have plateaued evolutionarily. They haven't changed since the Cretaceous period. So it's almost the plant is pretty much identical. There's a lot of species like that, especially in South America, evergreens, and in Asia, species that are like the same condition, the same appearance, the same ecotype they've been in for hundreds of millions of years, which is really cool. It's like a living fossil. We're gonna see another living fossil too in a minute, so stick around. Another thing, species epithet for this radicans is that these viney parts, they can reroot themselves. So you get it spreading. It's a really aggressive spreader. And here's one. This one might have been a runner, or it could have been a branch that came over here. I mean, there's branches. Some of them might have gotten ripped out. But so that's the thing. It can like put down a branch and it can like tip. It can tip walk all around, just with like sending out shoots from the branches. We have blackcurrant, Ribes americana, gooseberry. We'll see if it makes fruit. I'm hopeful. It's a cool plant nonetheless. You can put it anywhere. Great native to have. It'll they don't get that tall, but they sort of form these colonies with stump sprouting. Almost a theme here. We got this juniper. I don't know if it's native. A big rhododendron that was transplanted and then not watered nearly sufficiently. Rhododendron maximum. It'll make it. It's a great screening plant. Second dogwood, Cornus florida. This tree was dead. It got hit by lightning, we believe, and as you can see, it sort of lost that central leader, and it even bifurcated. So now it's going sort of in the way that you never want anything to grow, because it can split further, but it's actually done a miraculous job at healing itself and almost creating a callus wood over the exposed, damaged part, with preventing rot. Somehow it got around the rot issue. Another blue azure, summer azure, spring azure, summer azure. Makes little berries, really valuable. I like it. It was definitely dead for a couple years and then it bounced back. So I think if you see a tree that has buds, sometimes it just is dormant and it wants to take a year or two off, and then people tend to cut them down, and that's really sad because like they're probably fine. You just have to like be patient with them and let nature do its thing, not always be fighting nature. I know people think it's a liability. If the roots are intact and it doesn't have leaves, it's never gonna fall over. Like it's the susceptibility for it falling over is the same as if it was just dormant in the winter, you know? It's like it being dead isn't gonna make it rot in a year. They're pretty rot proof. So if you want to wait 2 years, that's fine. Like a snag in a forest can last a long time. A snag even on a street can probably last 10 years without finally having to be cut down. The ones on the street, of course, at some point, like they will rot. So yeah, eventually they have to be cut, but like they can certainly be kept for a while. Yeah, aesthetically, it's you probably don't want birds living in them because the birds tend to get hit by cars. So keep the wildlife away from humans, you know. But like that's not an option anymore. We have to become pro nature, pro wildlife, and but humanity is not gonna change ever. So anyway, here we have two plants. The first one was a volunteer hickory, the royal hickory moth, but that one's been extirpated. So I need to come up with a new specialist on hickory because oh, I just pulled off a leaf. Compound leaves. Terminal bud here. Terminal leaflet. I think it can poke through, I think. I don't think it'll hurt the dogwood. I think all the mutualism would be helpful. And then just transplanted is Lindera benzoin. This one's a male. It's a really confusing because they have these like little things and I'm always like, is that going to be a berry? Is that going to be a spice berry? But it's not. I don't think. I think those are just like, so it's a new branch is going to be here. You see they're like in the crook of where the petiole meets the stem. And so that's how you know it's a leaf actually, is because you have like a bud here. It's a leaf bud. I wonder even if you can see the leaf scars. Well, the rain droplets look like leaf scars. But you can see like this branch is all new because that's where the bud scar, not the buds. That's where the scar is. I can't see if it's in focus because the camera's lit. And this one grew so much this year, and I trimmed it. What I like about spice bush is it's really malleable, and they can work anywhere. They can get pretty big, and they're just very vigorous. People don't like them because, you know, it's human exceptionalism and like human perspective bias, but other than that, people don't like them because they look leggy. But I think they look great. Awesome fall color. The leaves are really round and full. It's a host to the spicebush swallowtail, Promethean silkmoth, and tiger swallowtail. Makes these valuable red berries for the birds. Excellent wintering or summer habitat. Could even have a bird's nest in this. And they're edible. I've eaten the berries. The leaves are edible. Early nectar source. There's nothing to not like about the spice bush. I think in terms of value, it's great because it grows so vigorously. You can really get your money's worth, especially even if planted small. They're dioecious, so you need male and female plants to produce fruit. Only the females will make fruit, but it needs a male pollinator. And so I don't really know what people like why they would rank this poorly, or why they would want to put like an Abbotswood potentilla or non-native witch hazel or Japanese maple or all this horticultural nonsense that's just everywhere. There's no need for it. You have these awesome native plants. This even looks better. It looks like it belongs here. Versus the Japanese maple, at least to my trained eye, looks totally out of place and superfluous. Are they really that good? I mean, if everyone has one, is it good? It's just like, how many people have this in their yard? Seriously. It's like, why not make a world for your children? Like, why? I mean, are people who are uneducated, are they just like happy? Like, if you have a PhD in something, but you like don't know what a tree is, like does it make you happy to be ignorant? Like, I don't know. Do we need to do we need to consume our entire lifetimes? Just like endless, mindless, unconscionable consumerism? Or can we plant native perennials? Like, is it too atavistic to not grow food passively? Like, who wants to like have a big garden? That's a lot of work. But you can just put in some pawpaw trees, and then you can have food passively, great tasting food, native, that supports ecology. And look, the pawpaws work in the shade. I think it's gonna. I'm hoping it's gonna flower, but you know, if it doesn't, it'll still be cool. But we don't need to like individually make mountains of trash for no reason. You know, we can just live a simpler lifestyle that's less materialistic and more focused on connectivity and personal growth and skill development and giving back to the world and sharing our space with the animals that also live here. There's some bird over there. Oh, it's on the branch. I don't know what people my age are thinking. Like, this generation is supposed to try and turn things around ecologically, but yet we're still in the nosedive in the 6th grade extinction event. And it's frankly, do I want my generation to survive, or do I think that I don't think humans going extinct is a good idea because then everything dies because of the spent fuel pod problem. But apart from that, I do think, and I do understand that with limited resources, you need a growth economy to be able to extract deeper, less viable raw materials. So no circular economy is possible. But I do think we could, as individuals, think more collectively, for more collectivism and less sort of solipsistic, self-personal interest. I mean, I get people need money, but like, you don't need to be greedy, you know? Like, you don't need to be like irresponsible. You can be a little more modest and less hubristic. We don't need to have such adulation for people who know about nature. It's like we can just, everyone can know about nature. I want every single person to help save nature. You know, like, that doesn't help me from a business perspective, and we have increased austerity and impoverishment, but like, I don't really care. Like, I want sustainability. And so if everyone like landscaped themselves and made them like giant sequoia mistake, then we would just have more connection. I think the world would be a better place. Anyway, we got annual vegetables over there. I think the contrast is perfect. Like, you need the annual vegetables to have the mass, the volume, but ultimately it's not sustainable ever. Like, the only sustainable human is a hunter-gatherer one. And I know that's really hard to hear, but it's actually true. So anything else is not sustainability, period. You can leave a comment and debate me on that. But anyway, great to have gardens. I love that people garden and have a thing that connects them with the outside world. Oh, what happened to the phone screen? Now it's probably getting really wet. Maybe it's the sun also. Alright, there we go. We're back out of the digital reality. Here's a witch hazel. I'm not sure if it's the native or the non-native. Native witch hazel supports 62 species, including the witch hazel dagger moth. We have some nice flower beds. This is what everyone wants. They want a nice sun-loving flower bed with all the flowers like the other neighbors back there. But do you really want sun? Like, do you really want to pay United Illuminating for your electricity bill when they cut down trees that poor people can't, like, I don't know, protest? It's like, it looks pretty, but it also looks disgusting because not much of it's native. Well, to me it looks disgusting, but like, to other people it looks fine. And I've planted plenty of these things. They look great. I mean, it looks good. It looks really good, but I don't know, at a certain point you just don't like anything that's not native. So, we have some goldenrod over here that gets stepped on. Look, it came in. I got asters and goldenrod. So check those herbaceous perennial keystone species that are fall flowering. Got a lot of vines. The funny thing about these, like the cucumbers and some of the fennel and arugula, is that they're like native butterfly species that actually use this stuff, like the dill and the parsley. Like you'd think like the butterflies don't use it, but like you have sulfur and like painted lady butterflies that those caterpillars almost like they eat vegetables. Like that kale, I mean, you got the cabbage white, obviously, that eats like cabbage and bok choy and Brussels sprouts and lettuce, but like that one's from Eurasia. It's one of the most widely distributed insects in the world now, but we don't see any today because it's raining, but they would be here. They're here all the time. But the other ones, the other animals, like painted lady and clouded sulfur, they need these sort of vegetable plants, and so that's sort of where my thinking is maybe someone can have an herb garden and have those plants so you're getting the caterpillars. Because those species are native, and I see the adults all the time, but it's hard to track what the host plant is. I'm gonna keep going about this English gardening, French gardening stuff. It's like it's so like European, because I don't understand. I don't understand how people got into this. Like, who convinced them in the first place to like do this sort of gardening? I mean, it's pretty, and it definitely has a role, because I don't think, because of like the latitudinal diversity gradient, there's not quite a whole lot of species in Connecticut. So I'm totally on board with a lot of the flowers. It's just sometimes it gets to be too much. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Here's something. Don't know what it is, so it's probably not native. Those ferns are native. You have the invasive smartweed, the shorter ones. You have the invasive yellow nutsedge there. You see the Rosa Sharon just pop up and have to be pulled. Here's a flower. It might be a daisy or something. I don't know. I thought daisies are in the spring. So we're going to go around to the other side and talk about some plants. Here's a plant. It might be a walnut. Or, I don't think it's, oh, is it a tree? It's not a, sorry, it's definitely not a tree of heaven. It's a something. It could be another, I'm not sure if it's an ash. It could be another hickory. We have these apple trees. They're actually quite productive. They have these mast ears. This was a mast ear. All the fruit's gone because the animals get it. But some nice woodpecker damage on the trunk there. I'm not sure how long these really last. I know apples can live a really long time. A lot of coneflower, a lot of mint, other non-native stuff, and got these milkweed plugs for free from Lockwood Farms Plant Science Day last year. And this one's done okay. I don't think it flowered. It might need another year. I also don't think it loves this side. There's like too many plants in here. I think it needs to be spaced out more, and I'm getting cold, so I'm talking faster. Asclepias tuberosa, which hasn't done much. I was just trying to get some milkweed in here, but it's really not the best spot. It's way too much paving, impermeable surface. Like, don't design it like this. Like, you don't need your, like, sure, the driveway has to be a certain width, but the steps up front don't need to be that wide. The bluestone doesn't need to be as wide as that is. You can have more planting space, especially over here. It's like really, you got the sidewalk and this strip and the paving, and then you have that next driveway, and you can't really put a tree there, and it's just sort of a mess. You have this really nice sort of organic bioswale. Pyrus caloriana, Bradford pear, calorie pear. This tree is doing really well. It's quite old, one of the older ones. Well, they put them in all at the same time, and some of them have done better than others, and a lot of them have died off or are dying off. This one's hanging in there. Like, this is what you have to do with the vegetables, just like caging trees, but at least when you cage a tree, at some point it'll become large enough it doesn't need the cage anymore, But with these vegetables, like, you always need to cage them. Look how much caging you need. And it's just like, it's not, something's gonna get around the cage. Like, it's not gonna be impenetrable, like unassailable. Like, these animals are smart. They're urbanized. It's like almost domesticated. Or there are different. There's like studies about like raccoons and coyotes that have become smarter because like they live in urban settings. This is pretty good. There must be something going on with this grass though. Actually, the grass here has always done well, I think, because it's in the shade. But this grass is a little less good. Anyway, let's talk about this here. I think there's some non-natives, but more cut flower. I'm not sure about these grassy things. A lot of people have them. It doesn't strike me as native, but I don't know my sedges too well, so it could be a native sedge. Here's a Syringa reticulata, the Japanese tree lilac, or just tree lilac. This plant has really done very well. It's only been in the ground, I think, 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons. It's still a little stumpy. They have these great summer inflorescence that attract all the pollinators. So quite briefly, we can go over another thing, very obvious identifying lilac shaped leaves. You get your internal brain AI to like match the picture in your brain database to what it looks like in the field, and that's how you ID stuff. But often, so there's like 6 signs that a tree might need more water than it's getting. This tree has done really well. It's getting all the water it needs. We do have a lot of runoff here. Like, there are a bunch of YouTube videos about how to like divert street runoff so it can go into like a bioswale that's in someone's yard to retain it. My only thought with that is you're getting a lot of like urban pollution, and like the asphalt's certainly carcinogen. So do you really want all that junk and all the microplastics and all the sulfuric acid and nitric acid like going into your yard where you're growing your red whatever the heck it's called, cardinal flower? Like, I don't know, all your aquatic plants, swamp milkweed or whatever, red leaf flower just everyone has that, or it's in other videos I've made. So what you can often see, so this tree is doing perfectly, so it's not a good example, but it's not a good model of what I'm trying to explain. But basically, the first thing it'll do is get really wilty and shriveled. It'll get puckered, obviously not crackly. Like, if it ever gets crackly like a fallen leaf, that's not good. But it'll lose the apical leaves first, and even if the tree has really wide, like a mature tree like London plane tree, if it has really irregular canopy and long, wide stems, then it'll lose also those lateral leaves. The water just doesn't get there. It's like there's not quite enough water, and so it doesn't get to the top. That's why there's no leaves at the top in a tree that has that diagnosis. So the second thing it'll do is it'll get crackly on the tips. It'll have brown tips with intact near the closest to the petiole and the central vein, and of course the midrib veins. And then often on like oaks, what it'll do is it'll send out an epicormic shoot out of the trunk, just sort of like a desperate, like, hey, we're not getting water all the way up, and so we need to like here, or it'd be like here, probably like at the first branch point, it'll just shoot out a leaf, and that'll be a way for it to try and photosynthesize and get energy and sugars to translocate, but also because it's closer to the ground, so it's closer to the water, and so the pressure is pulling water from the roots to the shoots, from the roots to the source, source to sink, so to the sink. New leaves are a sink. They actually require energy, and so the idea is that when they fully develop into mature organs, that they will sort of recuperate the energy and they'll become a source instead of a sink. But anyway, I'll send out an epicormic shoot. The other thing I can do is, I think a lot of times if they're buried too deeply, or if the root flare is covered, or if they're not getting enough water, period, the tree will actually give up and it'll send up a sucker. You can see this a lot of trees. Some trees sucker more than others, and some trees sucker when they're cut. It's different than stump sprouting. Stump sprouting is when if you cut an ash tree, it'll sprout from the cambium, from the actual existing trunk. Suckering is when there's a brand new shoot that comes out, but it originates from the base. So that'll be another sign that it needs water. But this tree's doing great. Awesome choice for a sunny spot here, because the maple has lost a lot over the years. But if you can see, the funny thing about this tree is it's so perfectly like wrapping around the wires. It's like hilarious, actually. The trees conform to the spaces they're in. Like literally, one of those branches goes right over the wires, and so yeah, trees conform to the space they're in. You can only get so many trees per unit square area, but yeah, like you can only grow so many carrots in a certain area. It's the same with trees, but the trees do conform, and I think there is like an optimization that can be done to it. Plethora alnifolia. It's a summer sweet, really fragrant. This can get larger than the spicebush with the spicebush here, but it wasn't showy enough, so I'm hoping this one's better. But of course, it's probably not going to be better because the flowers, they're fine, but they're not like, I don't know, zinnias or daffodils or like iris or what's the other one that starts with a P? Anyway, it's a really cool plant. I'm hoping it does well. They can even get bigger. We have a new tree marked out for here. Really excited for that one. We have Ginkgo biloba. This is the fossil, and the ginkgos are, I don't know, last order of last tree in its order. We have a nice privet hedge. These were put in much more recently than the calorie pear, and I guess they're a little slow growing, but this growth form is like awesome. I think a lot of them are more, they're like cultivated to be more upright and to have sort of less good branch pattern like this. Like it looks like a pinoc, like the branch form, which is really awesome. These sweet gums are even higher performing. They were planted maybe 5 years even after the ginkgo, and are already overtaking them both in trunk caliper, but also in height, also in width. In every way, these sweet gums are really doing a good job at fast growth and can shade the street. And they're also very long lived. I mean, the ginkgos can live forever, but the sweet gum on the street can also live maybe 100, 200 years as a street tree, not just as a tree in the yard. So it would be the Luna moth if you go down south to Maryland, parts of New Jersey, but here they're not doing anything ecologically. Though those they don't look like the new cultivars. So the Happy Days, DAZE, are fruitless, so you'd have a fruitless sweet gum, but those fruits actually do contain seeds that the animals can eat. We have a funny enough evergreen on the street. We have two evergreens. They're very comical, because you're not supposed to plant an evergreen as a street tree, but that one's a volunteer. That's an eastern red cedar. It's a monocot, so it has fibrous roots and it doesn't grow like a tree. It has roots all the way around the base, no sort of taproot. Well, these ball and burlap trees don't have taproots either, but they're all lateral. But the monocots, monocots, they don't have a vascular cambium, so that no secondary growth, and it's all there's like no parenchyma with a ring of parenchyma. There's no annual rings, so there's no ring of like undifferentiated stem cells. They're just shrubbies. We have maybe probably the best small-sized street tree for the wires. It's a Crataegus viridis, the green hawthorn, winter king. It's not native. This one's not native. We have native hawthorns in Connecticut, but this particular one isn't. This is from the south. There are plenty of native ones though. You can buy them at Earthtone's nursery. We have a Chinese cypress, Chamaecyparis spicifera, Japanese fall cypress. It's a cool ornamental plant. I think it's a perfect thing to grow there. Sort of like what I'm doing with the clethra. The cypress sort of fills in that really awkward space next to the driveway because you need 7 feet from the driveway for like a street tree. And so like you have the calorie pair there and there's just not space for another tree. But you can have a shrub and it's a good screening plant, helps with noise and air pollution. Evergreens help even more. Here's I think this is a weeping red bud, Cercis canadensis leaf bud folder. Oh, we got some bittersweet on there that needs to get cut off before it goes to seed. And some yew cactus. We have another mountain thing. What's it called? American mountain ash. Not an ash tree, not a fraxinus. This is Sorbus americana. It got eaten, so the cage went on it. And then after it got eaten, it was like all done for the fall. It was just like senescing early. And then it got eaten and it decided to grow again. A lot of that is brand new growth. And it like got in the ground, root ball fell apart. But then it's like taken off. Really cool. Makes a lot of berries. We were trying to find a medium-sized tree. I would recommend this one. It just needs a cage. I guess I wouldn't recommend it because you have to put a cage on it. If you like it, then you should have put a cage on it. We have the utility line. Another service berry to replace the Norway maple that was here. Full-sized red bud. This one is and the cultivar has red leaves, so it's not the best from, you really want the green leaf one, but this one's great. There's plenty of green leaf ones around. It's, I'm just happy it's here. We got a pin oak. Some more, Rose of Sharon, and it looks like black walnut. Is it a sumac or, that looks like a walnut. Anyway, got a red maple back there. So we came all the way out here just to talk about an invasive species that's really cool because it's one of the most rare plants in the world, but we got it growing invasively here in New Haven. And I am also looking on the lookout for greenbrier. So we have some more native cherries. This is Calopaxinus pictus. Calopaxinus septum lobus. It used to be pictus. Septum lobus meaning 7. But when I count it, I never get 7. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, actually it's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Lobes. 7, not sinuses. Yeah, lobes on the flower. And they're really spiky. These flowers are very leathery. They feel like leather. Giant flowers. They look like dinosaur claws. And super long petioles. This petiole is like 1.5 feet, 2 feet long. We got little oaks that are trying to grow in the wrong spot. That's the cordifolium, the Symphyocactum cordifolium. They're invasive because there is some mature trees. This is tree Aurelia. It can grow 80 feet tall, and so not sure we want an 80-foot tall tree because then that requires a tree removal with specialty trucks. So you need a 2-truck operation, 1 lift truck, 1 grind truck. You need supervised personnel on the ground. It takes all day, and so these are really bad because they're fast growing and they're super shade tolerant, so they can grow anywhere, like anywhere in the park, and they make a lot of seeds. The seeds are fine for the birds. There's no adverse effects that the birds eat the seeds. The birds don't really I feel like they know what a native plant is, but they don't really know. So they'll eat anything. They'll make their nest in anything, even the multifloral rose. Like, this was advertised to be planted because it was such a good, like, habitat plant, but it's like we have native equivalents that have coevolution for millions of years with the native wildlife. We don't need these introduced non-native invasive plants. It came from someone's yard. No one planted it there because people like the roses anyway. So the Calopax in this, it has a cool growth form. It's very tropical looking, and I think it's cool. I used to like them. I'm now starting to not like them, but I feel like we need more trees. Like, we gotta choose like habitable world or not, and so maybe this is like a lesser evil. Some of them can definitely get cut though. It's just like once they get too big, then it's like you can't have volunteers, then you need like a chainsaw, and then that becomes a whole thing. So you can't operate a chainsaw in the park, or you're not supposed to operate a chainsaw in the park. So, yeah. The big ones are around this corner. I'm looking for greenbrier. It's a good patch. Oh, this might be an elm. We also have these weird cherries. Yeah, this is an elm tree. So my idea with the Eurybia, the whitewood aster, is you have, there's a lot of it here. So I think the city, or maybe they cleared it out. This was all overgrown. We need to do a clean out here. But there's another, oh, here it is. We can count the rings. So look at it. So like already pretty, in a short period of time, you have like a massive tree here. I wonder if this is the park. So here are the annual rings. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 12, 11. Plus the pith, which is hard to count. So 12-year-old tree planted from seed, fast growing. It was probably almost 20 feet tall. Or maybe not, it was like 15 feet. So if you leave it for 20 or 30 years, then it's, they can get really big. And then they look like a native, because people don't know, and then that's a problem. So now I guess we're just doing a woods tour at this point. Oh, is that where they put it? Yeah, that's the stem. Nice sugar maper, Acer saccharium. We have this really bad invasive wisteria vine. This is one I would recommend using herbicide on. Making sure it doesn't go to seed, picking off the bean pods, and then herbiciding it. Now we have English ivy encroaching over here. This is sort of like the far reaches of the park. We have invasive bittersweet. It's gonna have red. Oh, I'm too cold to pull it. Red leaves. Red roots. So all of this is like whitewood aster along this path here because it's like forest edge. And so forest edge, you have more invasion of non-natives, and yeah, it's just the invasives can't get into the woods as easily, so they're always on the edge. And so I thought there was whitewood aster, and so there could also be whitewood asters in the yards because all the bees use them. Here's the beech tree. Fagus, what's that called? Grandiflora. I'm forgetting what the genus name is. Anyway, it's the host of the early hair streak. And we have all the beech leaf disease and all the beech bark disease. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.